The void of space rippled with an unnatural stillness as the Zorn Collective's primary invasion vessel, the Obsidian Spear, approached the Sol system. Its massive hull, constructed from metamaterials unknown to human science, absorbed and redirected light, making it nearly invisible to conventional detection methods. Captain Krulax stood at the central command nexus, his 6 multi-jointed limbs moving with practiced precision across holographic control interfaces. Tactical displays flickered with cold clinical data. Preliminary scans of Earth revealed a planet divided. Multiple governments, competing technologies, apparent internal conflicts. To the Zorn, human civilization looked like a fragile ecosystem ripe for systematic elimination. They had conquered civilizations far more advanced, crushed resistance movements on hundreds of worlds. This would be another routine planetary acquisition. Krulax reviewed the standard invasion protocol. Phase 1. Electromagnetic pulse to disable primary communication and defense networks. Phase 2. Targeted energy weapon strikes on key infrastructure. Phase 3. Ground invasion and total subjugation. The entire process typically took less than 72 standard solar cycles on most conquered worlds. What Krulax didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for something like this for decades. In a nondescript research facility buried beneath the Colorado Rocky Mountains, Sarah Martinez watched her monitoring screens with an intensity that belied her young age. A communications specialist with an unprecedented talent for pattern recognition, she had been tracking anomalies in deep space communication patterns for months. Her current system was a hybrid of quantum computing and advanced machine learning algorithms, designed to detect even the slightest irregularities in electromagnetic transmissions. Most of her colleagues thought her obsessive monitoring was a waste of resources. The military brass tolerated her work more as a demonstration of cutting-edge technological exploration than a serious defensive strategy. But Sarah saw something different. The minute electromagnetic disturbances, the subtle gravitational anomalies, the almost imperceptible shifts in background radiation. They were telling a story of an approaching threat that no one else could yet perceive. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, correlating data from multiple global observation systems, satellite networks, deep space telescopes, military tracking systems, all fed into her custom-built analysis framework. Something was coming. Something big. At the same moment, halfway across the world, Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura reviewed the latest geological survey data from his laboratory in Tokyo. A renowned geophysicist with a side passion for extraterrestrial research, he had long theorized about potential alien invasion scenarios. His predictive model suggested that any advanced civilization capable of interstellar travel would likely approach planetary conquest with a combination of technological superiority and psychological warfare. The Zorn believed their approach was mathematically perfect. Their collective consciousness, the vast neural network that connected millions of minds, had developed strategies that had worked flawlessly across dozens of galactic conquests. Individual thought was a weakness. Collective intelligence was the ultimate evolutionary advantage. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. As the Obsidian Spear continued its silent approach, the first tendrils of its massive energy field began to interact with Earth's electromagnetosphere. Most monitoring systems would register nothing more than a minor solar disturbance, but Sarah Martinez's screen lit up like a Christmas tree, each blinking indicator a silent alarm of the impending invasion. First contact was imminent, and humanity's most extraordinary moment was about to begin. The first Zorn energy weapons struck with surgical precision. Tokyo's skyline erupted in a cascade of molten glass and vaporized steel, the initial blast creating a mushroom cloud that dwarfed any human-made weapon in history. New York followed seconds later, the Statue of Liberty disintegrating into a cloud of metallic dust and shattered hope. Major Liu Wei of the Chinese Rapid Response Military Unit watched the initial assault from an underground command center in Beijing. His team had been preparing for potential global threats for years, though nothing could have truly prepared them for this moment. The holographic displays showed cascading system failures, entire metropolitan areas going dark in milliseconds. "Defensive Protocol Omega," he commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around him. What the Zorn didn't understand was that humanity's strength had never been in its individual cities, but in its ability to adapt, to survive, to fight back from impossible situations. In the ruins of Tokyo, Akira Tanaka, a construction engineer turned impromptu resistance fighter, looked at the destroyed mech equipment surrounding him. Where others saw destruction, he saw opportunity. With hands still bleeding from broken glass and concrete, he began to modify a half-destroyed construction exoskeleton. The massive machine, originally designed for building skyscrapers, now became a weapon of resistance. Hydraulic systems meant for lifting steel beams were recalibrated into crushing mechanisms. Sensor arrays intended for structural analysis now tracked alien movement patterns. Within hours, Akira's modified mech became a nightmare for the Zorn ground troops, striking from impossible angles, using the urban landscape as both shield and weapon. Beneath New York City, a network of subway workers and local engineers transformed the underground tunnels into a guerrilla warfare system. Led by Maria Rodriguez, a former military communications specialist, they used their intimate knowledge of the city's infrastructure to create a mobile resistance network. Maintenance tunnels became supply routes, old communication lines were repurposed into early warning systems, and every maintenance access point became a potential ambush location. In Cairo, Dr. Fatima El Masri and her team of computer scientists worked with a fury born of desperation. The first alien communication devices they'd managed to capture were being systematically dismantled, their alien technology reverse-engineered in real time. What the Zorn saw as a simple invasion, humans saw as the ultimate technological challenge. "We're not just defending," Dr. El Masri muttered to her team. "We're learning." The global response was anything but coordinated, and that was precisely its strength. Traditional military hierarchies dissolved within hours. A teenager in Brazil discovered a way to jam alien communication frequencies using a modified satellite internet array. A group of Alaskan wildlife researchers used their tracking skills to identify patterns in alien ground troop movements. Governments that had been bitter enemies weeks ago now shared encrypted communication channels. Military resources from every continent were being pooled, shared, repurposed. The Zorn had expected a hierarchical, predictable response. Instead, they found a hydra, cut off one head, and two more would emerge, each more unpredictable than the last. Captain Krillax watched his tactical displays with increasing confusion. This was not how planetary conquests worked. Humans were supposed to be breaking, surrendering, falling into predictable patterns of psychological collapse. Instead, they were fighting. And worse, they were enjoying it. The repurposed particle accelerator facility hummed with an energy that was equal parts desperation and genius. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of organized chaos, her wild hair pulled back into a messy ponytail, fingers flying across multiple holographic interfaces. Behind her, a team of the world's most brilliant minds worked with a singular purpose, finding a way to defeat an seemingly invincible alien threat. Marcus Chen approached, a steaming cup of coffee in one hand and a datapad in the other. Where Rodriguez was all passionate energy, Chen was calculated precision. A cybersecurity expert who had made his reputation by breaking supposedly unbreakable systems, he represented the perfect complement to Rodriguez's quantum brilliance. "Look at this," he said, projecting a complex neural network diagram onto the main screen. The image pulsed with intricate connections that looked more like a living organism than a technological schematic. Rodriguez's eyes narrowed. "The Zorn's collective consciousness," she muttered. "It's not just a communication network. It's a living, breathing neural system." What they had discovered was nothing short of revolutionary. The Zorn's greatest strength, their collective consciousness that connected millions of minds into a single unified intelligence, was also their most profound weakness. Unlike human networks that could function with partial damage, the Zorn system was fundamentally interdependent. Every node was critical, every connection essential. "It's like a massive, living computer," Chen explained to the assembled team. "But instead of redundant backup systems, it's a single, continuous consciousness. Damage one part, and the entire system could collapse." The team worked in shifts that blurred the lines between day and night. Quantum physicists worked alongside cybersecurity experts. Biological researchers collaborated with AI specialists. The facility had become a crucible of human ingenuity, drawing resources and talent from every corner of the globe. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, who had been tracking the alien approach, provided critical insights into the Zorn's communication patterns. His geological and electromagnetic research gave the team a unique perspective on how the alien neural network interacted with physical space. "They don't just communicate," Nakamura explained during a late-night strategy session. "They exist as a collective consciousness. Every individual is both a part of the whole and completely dependent on it." Rodriguez saw the potential immediately. "We're not looking to destroy them," she said, her voice gaining excitement. "We're looking to introduce chaos, to make them experience something they've never encountered," individual thought. The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of quantum computing, advanced viral algorithm design, and a deep understanding of neural network vulnerabilities. The team developed a computer virus that was more than just code. It was a philosophical attack on the very concept of collective consciousness. Chen nicknamed it the identity virus, a piece of code designed to do something seemingly impossible. Instead of simply destroying the Zorn's communication network, it would introduce individual consciousness into their collective mind. "Imagine," Rodriguez explained to the team, "forcing a collective consciousness to experience individual thought for the first time. The psychological impact would be devastating." As the first prototype of the virus took shape on their screens, the team fell silent. They weren't just developing a weapon. They were creating a fundamental challenge to an alien civilization's entire way of existing. The Zorn thought they were preparing to conquer Earth. They didn't realize Earth was about to change the very definition of consciousness. Captain Krellax of the Zorn Collective stared at the communication screens in absolute bewilderment. What was happening to their carefully constructed invasion plan? It started with music. Not just any music, but a bizarre compilation that defied all logical comprehension. A street musician in New Orleans had been live-streaming when the invasion began, and somehow his improvised performance using pieces of destroyed alien technology went viral. The video, a chaotic blend of jazz, electronic beats, and the metallic resonance of alien equipment, began broadcasting across every communication frequency the Zorn could intercept. Teenage hackers in Sao Paulo discovered they could temporarily disrupt alien communication networks by flooding them with internet memes, rapid-fire cultural references, and deliberately nonsensical image and sound combinations. What seemed like random noise to the Zorn was a complex linguistic and psychological assault that their collective consciousness couldn't process. In Tokyo, a group of performance artists turned psychological warfare into an art form. Led by Yuki Tanaka, a former digital media specialist, they began creating immersive augmented reality experiences designed specifically to confuse and disorient the alien neural networks. They weaponized human creativity itself, turning art into a strategic defense mechanism. "They think in straight lines," Yuki explained to her team. "We think in spirals, in fractals, in completely unpredictable patterns." Their first major breakthrough came during a broadcast that was simultaneously a performance art piece, a hacking attempt, and a psychological operation. They created a multi-layered digital experience that combined rapid-fire cultural references from a dozen different human cultures, mathematical patterns that seemed to make sense, then deliberately broke down, emotional soundscapes that captured the complexity of human feeling, visual imagery that defied logical interpretation. The Zorn communication networks began to experience something they had never encountered before: cognitive dissonance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Marcus Chen watched the results from their research facility, barely believing the data streaming across their monitors. The psychological assault was working in ways no traditional military strategy could have achieved. They were introducing chaos into a system that relied entirely on order and predictability. A group of stand-up comedians became an unexpected psychological warfare unit. They began broadcasting comedy routines that deliberately played with logic, language, and expectation. Jokes that made no sense became a weapon, introducing concepts of irony, sarcasm, and intentional miscommunication that the Zorn collective consciousness couldn't comprehend. In military command centers around the world, strategists realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. This wasn't just a defense, it was a complete reimagining of warfare. Captain Krulax watched in growing horror as the invasion plan disintegrated. The Zorn had conquered civilizations across hundreds of star systems. They had faced technological challenges, military resistance, planetary defenses, but they had never encountered an enemy that could turn creativity itself into a weapon. Somewhere between a jazz improvisation, a teenage hacker's meme attack, and a performance artist's augmented reality experience, the invasion was falling apart. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were rewriting the entire concept of conflict. The wheat fields of Kansas had always been a place of quiet endurance. Now they became a battlefield that would change the course of human history. Emma Rodriguez never considered herself a hero, a fourth-generation farmer with calloused hands and a degree in mechanical engineering. She understood machines the way most people understood conversation. When the alien ground forces began their systematic sweep of rural America, she saw an opportunity that no military strategist could have predicted. The first modified combine harvester rolled out at dawn, its agricultural machinery transformed into a weapon of stunning complexity. Emma had spent weeks studying the captured alien tech, understanding its weaknesses, and adapting her family's farm equipment into something that would make military engineers weep with both terror and admiration. GPS tracking systems became targeting computers. Hydraulic lifts transformed into weapon platforms. The combine's ability to process massive amounts of material became a method for detecting and disrupting alien ground troop movements. What looked like a simple farming machine became a mobile fortress of resistance. Across the world, similar transformations were happening. In the mountains of Colombia, a group of coffee farmers used their intricate knowledge of terrain to create a network of resistance that confused alien tracking systems. Their understanding of microclimates, hidden paths, and local ecosystems became a tactical advantage that no advanced alien technology could match. Juan Martinez, a former esports champion from Buenos Aires, discovered his skills translated perfectly to coordinating resistance movements. The same quick-thinking strategies he'd used in competitive gaming became invaluable in tracking and predicting alien movement patterns. His team of young gamers became an unconventional intelligence unit, using communication skills honed through years of online gaming to create a global resistance network. In rural Alaska, a group of wildlife researchers turned their tracking skills into a weapon. Led by Dr. Emily Tekak, an indigenous biologist with generations of survival knowledge, they used techniques passed down through centuries to track, evade, and ultimately combat the alien ground forces. Their understanding of extreme environments became a tactical advantage that the aliens couldn't comprehend. The most unexpected heroes emerged from places the Zorn would never have considered significant. A high school chemistry teacher in Detroit developed improvised weapons using materials from the local hardware store. Grandmothers became intelligence gatherers, their decades of local knowledge proving more valuable than any advanced alien scanning technology. In the mountains of Nipple, a community of shepherds used centuries-old communication techniques to create a resistance network that completely baffled alien tracking systems. Hand signals, smoke communications, and an intimate knowledge of mountain terrain became more effective than any advanced technology. What the Zorn failed to understand was the fundamental nature of human resistance. This wasn't a military operation. This was survival encoded in human DNA. Every profession, every skill, every piece of knowledge became a potential weapon. Emma Rodriguez looked out over her modified combine harvester as the sun rose over the Kansas wheat fields. The machine was no longer just a tool for harvesting crops. It was a symbol of human resilience, of the ability to adapt, to transform, to survive. The invasion had come to rural America, but rural America was ready, and it was going to fight back in ways the aliens could never have imagined. The Zorn mothership, the Obsidian Spear, hung in Earth's orbit like a massive wound in the fabric of space. Captain Krillax watched his command systems dissolve into chaos, unable to comprehend the assault that was tearing apart the most sophisticated collective consciousness in the galaxy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the Global Command Center, a converted underground research facility that now served as humanity's primary defense coordination point. Her team had spent weeks preparing for this moment, the culmination of their quantum virus attack, psychological warfare, and global resistance strategy. "Initiate Protocol Prometheus," she commanded, her voice cutting through the tension of the command center. The attack was a symphony of human ingenuity. Military forces from every continent launched a synchronized assault that defied traditional warfare concepts. In space, repurposed satellite networks became weapons. On the ground, every piece of human infrastructure became a potential point of attack. In low Earth orbit, a team of international astronauts had transformed the International Space Station into a makeshift weapons platform. Led by Commander Aisha Kwizi, they used the station's robotic arms and scientific equipment to launch a series of precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses designed to exploit the vulnerabilities in the Zorn's technological systems. Marcus Chen's team had prepared the ultimate digital weapon. The quantum virus they had developed was more than just a piece of code. It was a philosophical attack on the very concept of collective consciousness. As it penetrated the Zorn's neural network, it introduced something the aliens had never experienced: individual thought. The psychological impact was instantaneous and devastating. The Zorn's collective consciousness, which had never experienced individual variation, began to fragment. Each node of their neural network started to experience something truly alien: independent thought, personal perspective, individual emotion. Chaos erupted on the Obsidian Spear. Sections of the massive ship began to operate at cross purposes, individual components losing their synchronization. What had been a perfectly coordinated invasion force became a massive, confused entity fighting against itself. On the ground, resistance groups worldwide launched their most coordinated attack. Emma Rodriguez's modified farm equipment in Kansas worked in perfect synchronization with urban resistance cells in Tokyo, cyber warfare teams in Sao Paulo, and guerrilla units in the mountains of Afghanistan. The attack wasn't just physical. It was a complete assault on the Zorn's understanding of intelligence, communication, and collective existence. Captain Krillax experienced something no Zorn had ever felt before: fear, individual, personal fear. The collective consciousness that had guided every decision of his existence was breaking down, revealing individual thoughts, individual emotions, individual weaknesses. "This is impossible," he muttered, a phrase that would have been inconceivable moments before. The Obsidian Spear, once a symbol of galactic conquest, began to tear itself apart. Not from external damage, but from internal confusion. The very thing that had made the Zorn seemingly invincible, their collective consciousness, had become their ultimate weakness. Humanity hadn't just fought an invasion. They had fundamentally challenged an entire civilization's understanding of intelligence, communication, and existence. The final confrontation was unlike any battle in galactic history. It wasn't about destroying an enemy. It was about changing the very definition of what an enemy could be. The aftermath of the battle defied every known principle of interstellar conflict. Where the Zorn expected total submission, they found something entirely unprecedented: a species that had not just survived, but fundamentally transformed the very concept of invasion. Captain Krillax, stripped of his collective consciousness, found himself experiencing something truly terrifying: individual existence. The massive obsidian spear, once a perfect instrument of galactic conquest, now drifted like a wounded animal, its systems fragmenting, its collective intelligence shattered. In the Global Command Center, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the final moments of the conflict with a mixture of exhaustion and wonder. The quantum virus had done more than just disable the Zorn. It had fundamentally altered their entire understanding of consciousness. "It's not about winning," she explained to her team. "It's about showing them a different way of existing." Survivors from the invaded regions began to emerge, each with a story of extraordinary resistance. In Tokyo, Akira Tanaka's modified construction mech stood as a monument to human ingenuity. In the Colorado mountains, Sarah Martinez's communication systems had become the backbone of a global resistance network. In Cairo, Dr. Fatima El Masri's team of computer scientists were already beginning to study the captured alien technology. The Zorn survivors became something entirely unexpected. Subjects of human curiosity rather than prisoners of war. Scientific teams from around the world converged to understand this species that had come to conquer but ended up being transformed. Ironically, the invasion had done what decades of global politics could not. It had unified humanity. National boundaries seemed meaningless in the face of what they had collectively overcome. Countries that had been bitter enemies weeks ago now shared research, resources, and a collective experience that transcended any previous human conflict. Marcus Chen discovered something even more remarkable. The quantum virus they had developed was more than just a weapon. It was a key to understanding consciousness itself. The way it had fragmented the Zorn's collective mind revealed complex neural patterns the human scientists had only theorized about. "We didn't just defend ourselves," Chen told a global press conference. "We discovered something fundamental about intelligence, about the nature of individual and collective thought." The surviving Zorn were a study in confusion. Individuals who had never experienced individual thought were now forced to confront their own existence. Some went mad. Others began to adapt in ways no one could have predicted. Emma Rodriguez, the Kansas farmer who had transformed agricultural equipment into weapons of resistance, found herself at the center of global discussions about adaptation and survival. Her practical approach to problem-solving became a metaphor for humanity's victory. "We didn't win because we were stronger," she said in a now-famous interview. "We won because we were different, because we could think in ways they could never understand." The obsidian spear, once a symbol of galactic conquest, now orbited Earth as a testament to human resilience. It would become a research station, a symbol of the day humanity proved that individual will could overcome collective force. The invasion was over, but humanity's real journey was just beginning. 5 years after the Zorn invasion, the world was unrecognizable. What had begun as a near-apocalyptic assault had become a catalyst for the most profound transformation in human history. The United Nations complex in New York now housed the most extraordinary diplomatic and research center humanity had ever conceived. The Interstellar Cooperation Center, as it was officially named, brought together the brightest minds from every corner of the globe. And now, beyond. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the window of her office, watching a group of modified Zorn researchers working alongside human scientists. The quantum virus that had shattered the Zorn's collective consciousness had done more than just save humanity. It had opened up an entirely new understanding of intelligence, consciousness, and cooperation. "We didn't just survive," she often told her students. "We evolved." The global unity forged during the invasion had transformed human civilization. Countries that had once been bitter rivals now collaborated on projects that would have seemed impossible before the war. The International Research Initiative had become the most funded and respected organization on the planet, drawing talent from every nation. Marcus Chen's team had developed entirely new fields of study: quantum consciousness research, neural network adaptation, and interspecies communication had become mainstream disciplines. The technology developed to defend against the Zorn was now being used to solve some of humanity's most pressing challenges: climate change, energy production, medical breakthroughs. Emma Rodriguez, the Kansas farmer who had become a global icon of resistance, now led a team developing adaptive agricultural technologies. Her modified farm equipment had evolved into a global system of sustainable farming that could work in the most challenging environments. The surviving Zorn had become something entirely unexpected, partners in exploration and understanding. Some had integrated into human society, while others worked on collaborative research projects. Their individual experiences continued to fascinate scientists and philosophers alike. Sarah Martinez, the communications specialist who first detected the invasion, now headed the Interstellar Communication Research Division. Her team was developing technologies that could potentially communicate with other potential extraterrestrial civilizations, not as a defensive measure, but as a genuine attempt at understanding. The first interstellar human mission was being prepared. It wasn't a military expedition, but a collaborative research mission that included human and former Zorn researchers. The ship, ironically christened the Obsidian Hope, represented humanity's newfound approach to exploration, cooperative, curious, and fundamentally changed. In schools around the world, the invasion was taught not as a story of war, but as a pivotal moment of human transformation. Children learned about the power of individual thinking, the strength of global cooperation, and the importance of adaptability. The Zorn mothership, now a research station and museum, orbited Earth as a constant reminder of what humanity had overcome. Its massive hull, once a symbol of potential destruction, now served as a beacon of hope and exploration. Dr. Fatima El Masri, speaking at a global conference, captured the sentiment best. We didn't just defend our planet. We redefined what it means to be intelligent, to be alive, to be connected. As night fell, Elena Rodriguez looked out over the city, watching the lights of a world forever changed. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just survivors, but something entirely new. The stars seemed a little closer now, and humanity was ready.